Okay, so this evening I'm going to talk about 3 different things that people are quite curious about in a microdose. There's loads of books. This is a huge subject, these areas in and of themselves, never mind the whole thing together. So I just want to explain about the difference between out-of-body experiences, near-death experiences, and crossing over. So what is an out-of-body experience, or an OBE? An out-of-body experience is when you kind of are like coming out of your body and you're even looking down at your physical body, but at that same time you can watch everything that's going on. So people often have out-of-body experiences when they are sometimes on an operating table. Sometimes it randomly happens to people. I've had that experience when I was on holiday once. It wasn't a pleasant experience, and I'm on about the OBE, not the actual holiday. But basically you come out of yourself and you're looking at what's going on, and you can find that you can almost like go anywhere if you wanted to. You're not asleep. It's different to lucid dreaming. That's another subject area completely, and it's not the same as astral traveling or astral projection either. You're pretty much hovering above your own physical body, looking down, watching what's going on. Even though you haven't got eyes as such, you can still watch and hear and see. And then when people sort of come back into their body, which is slightly different to a near-death experience, they'll be able to recall what they saw, heard, smelt. Probably didn't feel a great deal, but that's different to a near-death experience. With a near-death experience is when usually people, something has seriously gone wrong with the physical body. So we could be talking like nearly dying, could be having a heart attack, for example, or people have talked about dying on the operating table, then coming back, or people might have nearly drowned or nearly choked to death or had an anaphylactic shock, or something's happened to the physical body. It could have been like a serious accident or something. And when people have a near-death experience, they often describe literally, and I've tried to find things I've got on my desk and in this room that can show you in a tangible way what I'm seeing in my head. But they're kind of like looking at a light at the end of the tunnel, although this card is nothing to do with death actually in the meaning of the cards, but it gives the idea that there's this great big tunnel that's quite dark, but at the very end of it is a brilliant white light. And that brilliant white light is Source, God, the universe, the other side, whatever you want to call it. And when you get close to coming to that light, that's when things kind of stop and you're given a choice. You have a choice, you have free will, because you're met by your guides, helpers, inspirers, maybe even relations that have passed before you, your ancestors or whatnot. And they're kind of saying, do you really want to come over here yet? Or do you want to go back? There might be family commitments or friends or other lessons you've yet to finish off before you completely cross over. So we're kind of like, it's got this silver cord. Again, I've used a ribbon to try and describe what I'm on about. We've got a silver cord, which is almost like the soul or connectedness to source. And when we have a near-death experience, this cord does not get snapped. You're still sort of, you're out of your body, the soul's moving on, but you've not completely left the earth plane, if that kind of makes sense. I'm trying to keep it in simple terms. So that bright light, the light at the end of the tunnel, is the other side, if you like, source, spirit, whatever you want to call it. So, but it's like a wall. Just imagine it like, I don't know, if you imagine the Lion, Witch and the Wardrobe, where they go through the wardrobe and they end up in another land or another lifetime, or the magic faraway tree where you get to the top of the tree and there's a new land there. You don't actually get to that other land. You choose to come back. And that's when people are resuscitated and they come back, and they, time and time again, people that have had near-death experiences will always tell you that they were incredibly happy on their way to the other side, an immense feeling of love. And if you Google it or research it or whatever, you often find that people didn't want to come back at all because they were enjoying this feeling of freedom and the intense love and the intense happiness of not being in the physical or anything connected to the earth plane. Unbelievably, when we're asleep at night, you're pretty much not having a near-death experience as such, but what do you think your soul is doing all day long? It's almost like twiddling something and, oh, what should I do? I know. That's when you will have experiences when we're sleeping of seeing different times and places, seeing different dimensions. It might be when you're talking to your loved ones that have crossed over in a dreamlike state when you're asleep. That's when you might get visitations going on. That's when people describe they've seen these faces that they don't know where they've come from. And then the silver cord comes back, and then you wake up and you get on with your earthly life. And there's an element of Buddhism which they talk about the phenomenon of deja vu, that silver cord remains intact when we're asleep, but you kind of wander off, see future times and dimensions, and then that explains the deja vu, which means already had you. I'm thinking, I've had this conversation before, or I've met this person before, or you recognise them. I mean, there's a whole load of reasons why that can happen anyway, but that's, again, just to keep it as brief as I can, that's what you get up to. That's the mischief you get up to when you're asleep at night. And that's why some mediums get their information. I've got a close friend I call Dynamo, and she gets all her information in a dreamlike state. When I go to sleep, I just dream about nonsense that's gone on in the day half the time, rather than other times and places, because I tend to do that when I'm awake, but in an altered state of consciousness. I won't run into boys if I don't want to talk about me. So then we come into this, so you get on with your earthly life, and then we come into the crossing over bit, because people ask me, well, what happens when you die? Well, I've learned a lot from not only the work as a medium, so I see what they see, I hear what they hear, I feel what they feel, I smell what they smell, I taste what they taste. They give me a dose of what it's like. I've seen and I've asked my spirit guides and helpers, what is it? Where do they go? Because they said, I've got to go now. I'm like, well, where are you going to? And then it's like a feeling of like a magnet being pulled away. I can feel them being pulled, people that I'm sort of bringing through to the clients or the audience or whatever. There's this feeling of being pulled back. And so when we cross over, what they've said, and I've learned this from clients I've got that have end of life nurses, and people that have been with, if you've ever been with somebody when they're in a process of transition and they know they're going because of old age or a terminal illness, first of all, you'll get what I call the greeters. So people that are in the process of dying might start talking to loved ones that have died years ago. Remember a certain relation of mine, he was saying, Eddie, not yet, Eddie, I'm not quite ready yet. And other people say, oh, what are you doing here? And they start having conversations with people that no one else in the room can see, unless they're obviously a clairvoyant or sensitive or seer or whatnot. And then when the soul leaves the body, people have described it as being incredibly, that they go cold, and then they look at themselves again. So you're looking at the physical shell, the suit that you're currently wearing. It's like you just got you're not a body, you have a body. Like you change your clothes. I mean, that's just from one lifetime to the next. But so you look at your body and thinking, crikey, it didn't look too good. And then you decide to go. And it's us here that want our loved ones to stay. But when you're in a physical body or a mental state, if this is what's fascinating about people with senile dementia or people in a coma, is that from a medium's perspective, their consciousness is already there. So the physical body's still here, but I'm talking to their mind because it's just energy that's going over. Anyway, I don't want to complicate things, trying to keep it simple. So when we cross over, we look at ourselves and then thinking, yeah, I'm free. I can go where I want, when I want, however I want. That's why when we, in a medium, or I'll speak for myself, I can't speak for the mediums, it would be unfair. We do an evening of clairvoyance. They don't follow me around. They don't hang out at the venue. They're there because you're there. And then when you go home, they go home with you. They don't follow me around. They've got better things to do with their time. So they've got the feeling of wanting to go home, going home, being like source, spirit, other side, crossed over, heaven, whatever you want to call it. But they're never alone. The idea that we sort of are meant to work out for ourselves how to get to the next stop is just not true. There will always be somebody, whether it's a relation, part of our soul group, or whether it is one of our guides, angels, helpers. There'll be somebody there. You're not left to try and fathom it out for yourself anymore. That we're ever alone here. You might feel alone, but you would have had a spirit guide or a guardian angel assigned before you even incarnated in the first place. This is why I'm going to do development workshops and seminars and that sort of stuff on this subject matter, because it's about time I followed in my own teacher's footsteps and shared a bit with the information that I know. Rather than keep on doing readings and evenings of clairvoyance, I need to spread the knowledge a little bit more, because that's what I've been told to do by my own guides and helpers and inspirers. So you're not alone on earth or in heaven. So the difference is between crossing over and a near-death experience is that when we cross over, this silver cord that keeps us between this world and the next is broken. And once that's broken, once that silver cord has been snapped, if you like, there's no coming back. And I've had a few sad experiences as a medium where I've had people stood right in front of me, someone's spirit side, as an apparition, saying, how do I come back? And they can't. And that's when we get spirit rescue. They need to be helped to move home. The way I describe it is, it's a bit like going into a department store and getting, you're on the ground floor and you want to get to the cafe at the top, but you're stuck in the lift. And that's when we get what's the sort of three parts to the crossing over, or three three main places, if you like, or parts the other side. The one is sort of the lower astral plane, and that's what, like I was just talking about, that's where people of the silver cord's been snapped, but they're still quite earthbound, like earthbound spirits. So they are literally wandering around. That's when you might get your hauntings or people getting kind of, when I say possessed, not in a sense of like Hollywood's Exorcist or anything like that, that would be an extreme case, but where someone kind of latches onto you, which is exactly how my mediumship started. And that person is trying to still live. They might have some unfinished business, or they might not realise that they're physically dead, or they feel as though they didn't get a chance to say a few things, or they didn't want things to kind of end the way they did. And so what they do is they kind of latch on to someone on the earth plane that might have cracks in their aura, or might be overtired, or drink drugs, or whatever. There could be loads of reasons, or just because that person shines bright, and so it's like a moth going to a light. So the lower astral plane is when people are trying to, someone's crossed over is actually still trying to remain alive. So they're a bit like parasites, really. They're just feeding off your energy, which is why the reason I'm doing this particular reel is that I explained to the lady the reason she'd felt so tired for 2 years is because she had a sister pretty much feeding off her energy. So we had to move her sister off and to get to the next stop, rather than still being kind of earthbound. So that's the lower astral plane. Then we've got like the middle astral plane, which is the idea people kind of get about heaven. that there's this beautiful land with beautiful lakes and mountains and beautiful homes and beautiful scenery, except it's much more brighter and colourful than Earth here. You know, there's been hypnotherapists that have asked, is it like Earth? And it's like, no, Earth is a poor reflection of what it's like there. And so again, I'm trying to think visual. If you imagine, okay, this card's got happily ever after on it, that is sort of the brightness, the colour, everything is brighter. And so you get to take it in for a while, thinking, this is nice, I can go where I want, I can be where I want. It's almost like Lisa Edwards, who I know, it's in America. She talks about life amongst the dead, but we get to have like a holiday. This looks a bit like a holiday, doesn't it? So we get to enjoy being in this sort of middle astral plane. There's only one problem. It doesn't last very long, because sooner or later you're going to get a knock on the door. And that's when it's time to do your life review. Some people might call it Judgment Day. But there isn't anybody really sat there making a judgment of you and how you've spent your life. In fact, it's you that does the judging. This is when you might be sitting with your, again, guides, helpers, inspirers, elders, masters, whatever. It's almost like a bit of a committee meeting going on, if you like. And you will get to see the lifetime that you had here, not only through your own eyes, but through the eyes and ears and physical bodies of everybody that you interacted with when you were here. So if you've made someone really happy, you'll get to enjoy that happiness that they had and the joy that they had. If you made someone really sad or upset, then you're going to know how they felt as well. So if people knew what they're in for when they do get to the next stop, and basically have to take a look at what it was like to be on the receiving end of their personality, hopefully it would make people a little bit more kind and caring. No one's perfect. We're not saints. We're human beings at the end of the day, or most of us are here anyway. Not everybody would agree with that, but you are what you are. And so when you're doing this review, you might look back and thinking, crikey, I didn't do that too well. And so at that stage, during this review of your life, you then decide at that stage what you're going to do the next time round, because unless you've learned all your lessons, unless you've ascended, unless you've cleared up all your karma, you're going to come back and do things again. So this is when people sometimes say, I'm sure, you know, you might get one of your children might treat you as though you're the child and they're the parent. And so next time around, we might decide, well, I'll be the husband, you be the wife, you be the child, I'll be the parent, and so on and so forth. So you get to swap places. Because my understanding, and again, you make up your own mind, is that we come back with the same group. I've had previous lifetimes with both of my husbands. I recognise them when I met them, and also my mum was my boss in a previous lifetime. Just to put you in a pitch, you come back and do different roles because you review that life and thinking, right, this time around we're gonna, you know, swap places. So yeah, we come back if we want to try and correct things. And then there's what we call because I'm trying to keep this brief, call the upper astral plane. This is where we've got the kind of schools going on, and we're looking at how we're all interwoven. So if you imagine that your soul or your energy, you as a person, if you like, or you as an entity, are like a thread, then you get to see how you have interwoven yourself with everyone and anything else, including pets, creatures and whatever, why you were here. It's like a tapestry room is sometimes how it's described. There's a healing temple as well, which people can actually go to through guided visualization or meditation. So sometimes people, you can literally go to the healing temple. It's like imagine it as like one great big university, or one great big temple or place or area where you can go to different schools and learn. So when we physically cross over, there might be some residue. That's why I clear my aura every day. Otherwise, I'm going to come unstuck and pick up all kinds of energy that might not belong to me. That's why I'm switched off half the time when I'm wandering now, and as most people do, whether they're aware of it or not. That's why they feel the need to be by water, or they need to have a crackling fire, or they need to walk barefoot on the earth, or they need to be blow away the cobwebs by standing in some kind of gale or wind. So you look at there's the healing temple, where you'll see like bright crystals, bright lights. It's like a kaleidoscope, and you can like bask in the vibes. That's why some people love crystal caverns and things like that, because it's very similar but with bright lights on. Then there's a tapestry room where you see how you kind of you've interwoven with everything else that's gone on. And then although I know about this already, I've done a course on it, and this is what I'm going to do in British Columbia in Canada as one of my main things I want to focus on there. Quite don't know why yet, but there must be a calling or reason for it. And that's where we've got this library, the Akashic Library, which is literally like a library where every thought, word and deed you've ever said or done, not just for yourself, but the world, which explains things like Atlantis times, Lemurians, Egyptian times, alien, other planets, everything is documented there. And so you can basically review all that's gone on, all that's going on. It's a bit like having a book of your life, but the Akashic Records is just one part of the upper astral plane. It's vast. And Edgar Cayce was not the main, it wasn't the main initiator of the Akashic Records, but was quite a pioneer on it, and he describes going through the different planes and then getting to where you need to get to. And we can access our records again through meditation, but you will come across a gatekeeper, if you like, and it's almost like it's not something to be misused, as is any spiritual practice. It's almost like this code of conduct, not by UK law, although we come under that in this country, but the universal laws, where you only access information if it's for the greater good. You can't misuse information in the same way that if you are wanting to manifest something in your life, it has to be for the right reasons, for the greater good, not through some kind of either greed or selfish or lower vibe need. It has to be for the greater good of all. Can't just be for selfish reasons. So that might make you think, well, if it's all so wonderful over there, where does the hell thing come into it? Well, if you're watching this video, you're sitting right in it. Earth is hell because this is where we hurt people. And what goes on in planet Earth, my understanding, and to quote Albert Einstein on this one, we'd be forced to believe and it's all coming out the wash now anyway, we'd be forced to believe if this planet was the only universe that existed. Of course there's life on other planets, but Earth seems to be one of the harshest taskmasters of all, compared to other places, which is why they talk about things like alien invasions coming to sort us all out and make us kind of better souls and stop us from self-destroying and self-destructing each other. Anyway, I said to keep it short and sweet because that's what I want to do, because it takes ages to upload the reels, and also it'll keep you interested in coming to any workshops and days and development courses that I'm going to be running. Anyway, hope you enjoyed a little microdose and have a wonderful weekend. Sometimes these subjects open up big areas. Not everyone's going to agree with what I've got to say. I'm not asking you to agree with my point of view. I'm just giving you a point of view. Anyway, not into hit the like button and all this kind of stuff, but if you enjoyed the video, then come back for some more. Have a lovely week and life. Take care. Bye bye.